There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He possessed 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and very many servants. So that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. And as the book of Job gets going, we read that God gives Satan permission to test Job. Satan believes that Job only fears God and does what is right because he's blessed so much. Surely if everything was taken away from him, he would curse God. So Satan leaves God's presence, and Job loses his servants, all his livestock, his sons and his daughters, they all die. Later on, Job is then struck again as Satan gives him loathsome sores from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. Job is suffering terribly. But in the midst of all of this, right while he's suffering as much as he is, in chapter 1, verse 20, we read these words. Then Job arose and tore his robe, shaved his head, fell on the ground, and worshipped. And he said, naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And in all this Job did not sin nor charge God with wrong. What a response, what an attitude, what perspective that Job brings to his suffering, to his situation. He realizes that he came into the world with nothing, and he'll leave with nothing. All that he has, yes, he's worked the land for, but he knows that it is a gift the Lord has given. But he knows too that when he dies, all the wonderful blessings and provisions and possessions he has, well, they'll stay here behind. He can't take them with him. He knows that life is more than the value of his possessions. All those things were blessings for this life only. Great perspective, isn't it, in the midst of suffering? Present perspective of how he views his situation. I wonder what kind of perspective, if we had that kind of perspective, I wonder what difference it would make to our own suffering, to the experiences that we go through ourselves. Of course, we suffer in different ways, for different reasons, at different times, at different degrees, but we suffer. And suffering can be tough, and it is tough, and it can make life really miserable. Now, don't get Job wrong, he himself was miserable. No, he was in pain. He wished that he wasn't born. But I wonder what makes our suffering sometimes harder is that we compare it with the blessing. We know what life could be, or we know what life was. And compared to our current suffering, it makes us even more miserable than it was. We know what life was like before we became ill or we got old. Now we hurt, now we're limited, now we're on all this medication. But in the past, we could do so much more. We had freedom, we had capacity, we had health. Or we remember what it was like when our job was secure, or we had a job, or we enjoyed our job. Now we fear the day when our boss will come to us and say, "I'm sorry, that's it." Or when the job that we really want is given to another. You know, don't we, that life, our home life could be so much better if the kids were in school, or if I could invite someone around to keep me company. Suffering is hard now because we remember those that we love that have died. Their memory makes us smile, and yet their smile brings a tear. We pine after the pre-lockdown life. Even if we were miserable then, it was surely better than what life is now. It's not fair, it's not just. We're missing out, time is fleeting away. And so on it goes. Suffering is made worse because we've experienced the alternative. But what if we were to have the perspective of Job? Naked I came in from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, the Lord has taken away. How would that change our perspective of our current sufferings, how we view our life? Well, how about another perspective that Job gives to us in this book, an eternal perspective? As you read on into the book of Job, you meet his three friends who are supposed to come to comfort him and sympathize with him. But surely all they do is make him more depressed as you read on. We won't get into what they say, but as you read on in the midst of that conversation, that backwards and forwards between Job and his friends, Job speaks and he talks about the abandonment he's had from his friends and family, the silence he's getting from God, the pain he gets, the unhelpfulness of these friends. And then he writes these words, or he says these words that are written down for us. "Oh, that my words were written," chapter 19, verse 23. "Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and lead they were engraved in rock forever." Verse 25. "For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes shall behold, and not another." Job says that his Redeemer lives. Who is his Redeemer? The only one who can save him from his suffering, the only one who can set things right, is God. The only one who, in terms of his sin, can make things right, that can redeem him from that sinful state, from, like for all of us, the only one who can redeem us is God. Job knows he can never pay for his sin. And yet, doesn't Job wonderfully point us forward to the Lord Jesus Christ? The God become man, Christ who knew the glory of heaven, and yet came into this world and suffered the deepest, darkest ugliness of bearing our sin upon the cross when he died. And yet Job here speaks about his Redeemer living. His Redeemer lives. At last, he says, verse 25b, "At last he will stand upon the earth." His Redeemer lives. Though he died, he lives. Christ rose from the dead, and he's sat at God's right hand right now, and one day, as promised, he will come back, and he will return, and he will stand upon this earth. But for Job, what hope is that? Because surely this is long after he is gone, dead and buried. What good news is it for him? Well, he believes. Look at verse 26. "And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh," he says, "I will see God." He knows that he will die, that his sore-ridden body is going to be destroyed. Naked, he will leave the world. But he knows that's not the end. He knows that in his flesh, not his dying, sore-ridden flesh, but in his renewed flesh, in a resurrected flesh, a redeemed flesh, he will see God. Because his Redeemer lives, he has this certain hope for himself beyond the grave. Wonderful present perspective we get from Job, that in the midst of his sufferings, though he couldn't explain it, though he wanted answers, though he wished things could be different, he knew that all that he had was a gift from God, and that it wouldn't mean anything in his death. But also that in death, he had that eternal perspective. He will receive a greater gift, and that of seeing his Redeemer in the flesh. New everlasting flesh and a new creation. Suffering is hard. It's made harder because we remember better days. But suffering is made easier because we look forward to better days, eternal days. And so may we begin to understand something of what the Apostle Paul says in Romans 8, where he says, "For I consider the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed." For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. What perspective we can have now that this life is not all that it is, that all that we have is a gift from God. It's not what life is about. Life is about Him. And we can look forward with eternal perspective, knowing that however bad life is right now, somehow it is not worth comparing to the wonderful glory that is to come. And so we cry out, "Come, Lord Jesus, come."